Frank Costello, and this is true, is heading home to his apartment, his condo in New York. As he gets into the elevator, a gunman comes and boom, fires a shot at his head. His voiceover is all the way through the film. And I like voiceovers to a certain extent. In Goodfellas, I thought it was used effectively, but here it was too much. And whenever you see too much voiceover, you know that there's something wrong with the script. Did De Niro's current issues with people because of his dislike, let me put it mildly, for Trump, did that play a role in people not going to see the film? Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end. As always, my friends, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that, and I always will. Today I'm going to review Alto Knights. People have been asking me, Michael, have you seen the movie? What's it all about? What do you think of it? And there's been a lot of controversy over this film. It didn't do well at the box office. I think everybody knows that right now.
It didn't work. It was a busto crusto.
A what?
A flop.
And so we're going to dive into my feelings on it, my perspective, why it didn't do good at the box office. I'll try to answer all of those questions. It was a major studio film. Robert De Niro, I think everybody knows that already, that he's been in it. He plays two parts. He plays the role of Frank Costello and Vito Genovese. So he takes on both characters. And look, come on, De Niro's a brilliant actor. You know, I know he's had controversy over the past couple of months. I think everybody understands that. It's been talked about. He's had some issues over it. Is that why, you know, the movie didn't do well? We'll get into that. But let's talk about the movie itself. You know, I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't one of my favorite films. I'll tell you what was the most off-putting for me. You know, De Niro plays both characters. He plays Frank Costello and Vito Genovese. And it was kind of hard for me because when they sat down, you know, opposite each other, it almost looked like they were twins for me. And, you know, De Niro tried to make the characters really separate and apart. And in real life, they were. Frank Costello was more the diplomat. He was called the prime minister. You know, he was more business oriented. He was more a racketeer than a gangster. Vito Genovese, just the opposite. He was a gangster. He was hardcore. And so, you know, De Niro had to play the opposites in both ways. And, you know, he did a decent job. I'm not going to say that, but it was just very off-putting when they were sitting down together, talking to one another, and they had a couple of beefs that they had to straighten out between it. And for that alone, it didn't work for me. I'm wondering why they did that. Why did they have him play both characters? Was that his idea? Was it the studio's idea? The producer's idea? I don't know. But I think they could have, you know, put a little bit more thought into that. You know, and I guess they all say, hey, you know, he could pull it off. De Niro's a brilliant character. And yeah, he can, you know, in most cases. But it just didn't work exceptionally well for me here.
I have a question for all my friends and followers. Have you tried my wine yet? You know, in the last 2 years, we've made tremendous progress with Franzese wine. And it's really all thanks to your support. And obviously, because people are finding out we have a great wine at a great price. In 2025, we aim to become a national brand, and I want all of you to be a part of it. Every bottle you buy, every story you share builds more than a brand. It fuels a movement. The story of our wine is one of people having second chances and of lives being transformed. That's the truth. So go to my website, franzesewine.com, and get your bottle today. Salud, my friends.
So what's the story about? It's based upon a true story. Of course, you know that. And it's pretty accurate in many ways, pretty accurate. You know, what happens, Lucky Luciano, who obviously grew up with both Vito Genovese and Frank Costello, he goes off to prison. He got convicted on this whole big prostitution case, and he goes to prison. He got a 40-year prison sentence. And then after that, he gets deported to Italy. I think you know the story there. We're not going to get into his story. I already did that. Go to the video on Lucky Luciano. I think you'll like it. We did it a couple of weeks ago. It's posted. But Frank Costello and Vito Genovese are out. And then what happens? Vito gets in trouble on a murder beef. And he ends up, you know, being away for 15 years. He skips the country, goes into Italy. And Frank Costello takes over as boss of the family. And he did a good job, you know, and this is in real life. He does a good job. He puts everything back together. He's a business guy. He's got political connections. He's got a strategy. He's got control of his men. He's doing a real good job for Luciano. Vito Genovese comes home, and I'm talking about the movie. This happens there. And after 15 years, Luciano was still away, and Vito sits down with Costello and says, hey, I want my piece of everything. You know, I know Lucky gave it all to you, but I was gone for 15 years. I deserve this. And so they have a sit down, they're talking about it, and they have a disagreement on it. And Vito wants to get into the drug business. Costello doesn't. Costello doesn't want the violence. He wants everything, kept pretty quiet. He wants, more of a business atmosphere, which was what Lucky Luciano wanted initially. And Vito was opposed to that. He wants his peace. He wants everything back the way it was before. And Frank's really not willing to do that. Well, what happens, the way the movie opens, Frank Costello, and this is true, is heading home to his apartment, his condo in New York. And as he gets into the elevator, a gunman comes and boom, fires a shot at his head. Miraculously misses him, just grazes him, I should say, misses, the target. And Costello goes down, but he lives. And as we know in real life, it was Chin, Gigante, that fired those shots. And then the story takes off from there. And I took some notes on it, because I want to get into some of what really happened here. I think what the good parts of the film are and what those that could have used a little help. So let me tell you some of the positive things that I jotted down from the film. It is a typical mob movie with De Niro in his role that he's done so well in so many films, Goodfellas, Godfather, Casino, all of them. Even The Bronx Tale, he was great, even though he didn't play a gangster. He played a bus driver, because, De Niro's always good. And, the positive part of this film is that Frank Costello is trying not to have Vito create a bloodbath after he has run the family so efficiently. And it's also a good story about Frank Costello and his wife. His wife is a Jewish woman. Her name is Bobby. And, I think they're trying to show that she had a very calming, peaceful, spiritual effect on him. Because, again, Frank wanted to avoid violence. He wanted to operate more like a business, which was Luciano's desire. And Vito is now disrupting that, and Frank is trying to keep everything calm. Vito also comes back and he spots a girl in a club and he falls for her, and they end up eventually getting married. And there was a rocky relationship, a whole big thing with her. He starts skimming off some money out of a business that she had. So Vito, it seems everything he touches turns into chaos. He's total gangster. That's it. There's a lot of violent content in this film. Like I said, it opens up with Frank Costello getting shot in the head. There's another scene on a rooftop where two guys, kill another guy. There's a witness there. They end up killing him too. So there's a lot of violence going back in the film, but it's a mob movie. You got to expect that. Whenever you see a mob movie, you're going to expect violence. So we cover that. Of course, you got a lot of language in the film. I don't understand this. The greatest mob movie ever was The Godfather 1 and 2. And if you look at both of those movies, there was no cuss words in there. They think that in order to really make it realistic, you got to have a gangster cursing every 5 minutes. But what happens, that turns off a major part of the audience. If the characters are dynamic and they keep you interested and the story really flows, you don't need all those curse words. You don't. But they feel that they need to do it. They feel that's the authentic part of it. And you know what? If they ever make a movie about my life, and, I'm saying that kind of cryptically, you're not going to see all of that. It's not necessary. If the characters are strong and the story is strong, you don't need all the curse words. To me, it's a turnoff, and I think to a lot of people it is, but you got a lot of it here, of course. There's a lot about drugs in here because Vito Genovese wants to get into the drug business. Frank Costello doesn't want it. He tries to keep it out, and there's a constant conflict between the two. And may I tell you this, after Frank Costello, had the assassination attempt, after they tried to kill him, he did say, I had enough, I'm done with this. And he did end up walking away from that life. And they let him go because he said, look, I'm not into this anymore. I'm never going to hurt anybody. I'm not going to do anything like that. But, he saw a better life outside of that life, and he did get out of it. Sound familiar a little bit? There is a part there where Vito is in a business relationship with his wife, and they have a rocky relationship, and he starts skimming money from a business that she owns, and of course she doesn't like that, and she ends up suing him. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on between the two of them. So again, everything in his life is very, very hectic. And you know what happens to Vito in the end. Oh, during this, as one part of the film I forgot to mention, but Albert Anastasia is featured here, true story. And he ends up getting killed, the barbershop, you know that, in Manhattan. And they do show that scene. They show some clips from it. And I got to say another thing that was kind of off-putting about the film for me. You know, Frank Costello is, his voiceover is all the way through the film. And I like voiceovers to a certain extent. In Goodfellas, I thought it was used effectively, but here it was too much. And whenever you see too much voiceover, you know that there's something wrong with the script. The script is not moving along well on itself. It's not being explained properly, so they feel they have to have a character's dialogue in there, his voiceover, to kind of explain the story. That's really a weakness in the film when you see it that often and that much. And that's what we have here. It's Frank Costello throughout the whole film. He's talking, explaining to the audience what they should be able to see visually. You don't need all of these explanations in the voiceover if the script is solid and moving along properly. So that's a key indicator that they had problems. And I think this movie was supposed to come out earlier than it did. And it took a while to get there for some reason. So again, problems in the script. And I think when you see the movie, you'll see it's obvious. The makeup was okay, I think, for both Costello and Vito Genovese. But, you know, all in all, look, I'm going to give you my wrap up. I could have avoided this film. If I didn't see it, it wouldn't bother me at all. Would I watch it again? Probably not. You know, if I really like a film, I'm going to see it 2 or 3 times. That's just how I'll do it. I'll watch it on my computer, whatever way, 2 or 3 times. I wouldn't bother doing that again. Now, let's talk about the fact that it was really a box office flop. I mean, I think the film cost 40 or 50 million, and I think worldwide in the first week it did 6 million. I think it's puttering along right now. The reviews were mixed, mostly bad on the film. And then, of course, we have the De Niro factor. Did De Niro's current issues with people because of his dislike, let me put it mildly, for Trump, did that play a role in people not going to see the film? I would have to say yes. You know, I think so, because I've seen, you know, a lot of negativity, you know, online regarding De Niro, and because of his position with Trump. But, you know, it goes beyond that. There was a video where where De Niro was doing an interview. He was on the streets of Manhattan, and he was really calling out Trump. You know, he's done that for the past couple of years now. There's got to be something that really, really, you know, caused De Niro to dislike Trump. I don't know what it is, but there's something that had to happen there. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't spoken to him about it, so I really don't know. But, you know, during the conversation he had on the street, he kind of said some negative things about Trump supporters. You know, it's not a good idea to be talking negative about people that buy tickets for your movies, people that support you. Not really a good idea. I think that De Niro could have, you know, thought that over a little bit before he, you know, he said some things. So do I think that hurt him at the box office? Yeah, I do. To what extent, I don't know. You know, you can say, well, Michael, if it was a brilliant film and everybody was reviewing it positively, then everybody would have bought tickets. And I think you're right. I think you're right. But I think to an extent, there was some people that were just turned off by him and said, we're just not going to go see anything that he does. And I've heard that, and I've read some of the comments, and they've said that. Again, to what extent, I don't know. I think the movie stands on its own. And for me, you know, it just didn't cut it. And look, I mean, I heard De Niro once in an interview. You know, he's self-deprecating at sometimes. I think the last film about the Fockers that he made, he was joking about it and said, I don't know if anybody ever seen that film, because it really wasn't a good one. Number 1 and number 2 were terrific. He was great in it. They were funny film. They were terrific. But number 3 really fell off, you know, and he made jokes about it. So, you know, sometimes an actor can't control the way things come out. They have a script. They think it's well. They do their part. People just don't buy into it. It happens. But basically, in just about every other movie that he's done, he does a great job. Let's face it, he's a brilliant actor, and you can't take that away from him. And that's just how it is. So, in wrap up, let's say this. Yes, it probably hurt him a bit at the box office because of his very public position on Donald Trump and Trump supporters. Let's grant that a little bit. But let's just say the film on a whole didn't work. Why it didn't work that well for me, I don't think De Niro should have played both characters. I think he could have did one brilliantly and have somebody else who was a little bit off-putting for me. Again, voiceover showed that there was a problem with the script. They used it all throughout the film. And normally when you see that, you know that people might be getting confused and they're trying to explain the film through the voiceover. Nick Pileggi wrote the script. He's a brilliant writer. Nick Pileggi, Goodfellas, and so many others. He's brilliant. He's a friend. I like Nick very much. But, sometimes you can have a great script. Maybe it doesn't work right. Man, who knows? There's so many things that could go wrong. So, again, would I recommend the film? Go see it. I mean, why not? It's a mob movie. Those people that love this genre, go see it. Put aside the stuff with De Niro. Go see the film. Some of you are going to, Michael, don't say that. De Niro doesn't serve. Whatever. If you don't like De Niro, you don't want to see the film, don't see the film. I'm not telling you what to do. But I think, I think you can get it on, it's streaming right now, so you can see it anywhere. I would say, look at the film. Take a look at it. Give me your comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm on or not, and take it from there. But again, if I had to give it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 5. So take it from there. See what you want to do from there. Anyway, that's it for today, my friends. How do I always leave you? Same way. Okay, and that's never going to change. But before I get into that, Franzese community people are really loving it. We're getting a real inflow into the community. Why? Because I'm trying to create that sense of community. We're putting so many resources there. I'm telling you now, if you need help in your personal life, if you need help in your business life, if you want to learn how to be a leader, you want to learn how to be a boss, you want to learn how to cope with certain challenges and problems and obstacles you're having in your life, if you want a sense of community where people are going to have your back, where you want resources that you can rely on to better yourself, I'm telling you, join the community. michaelfranzese.com/family. Not too hard to remember. You'll see it come up here. I'm sure there's a link. michaelfranzese.com/family. I invite you in. You're going to get a lot more of me, not stuff that you're going to see on YouTube. This is personal and private for our community. So jump in there. People are really enjoying it, and it's growing in leaps and bounds every single day. And we want to create not only a national community, not only here in the United States, but globally. So you can benefit from people, and a lot of substantial people are coming into this. People that might benefit you in business, whatever your business, endeavor is. So take a look at it. michaelfranzese.com/family. No obligation. You get in, you like it, you stay. You don't, you leave. You don't sign a contract. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. You know the deal. Okay? All right, my friends. So that's it for today. Once again, I always leave you the same way. Be safe. And it's a lot safer now that a lot of this border is under control. You got to admit it. He kept his promise. He said he was going to come in and control the border. He did just that, and our communities are safer. Be healthy. Let's see what RFK does. He's taken some dyes out that we've been eating in our food for years. Why are we eating these dyes when they're not good for anything else? Why are they putting it in our food? RFK is working on it. Who knows what he's going to say about vaccines and about autistic people? I don't know. I'm not into that yet. I have an autistic grandson. I hope whatever they find out is a benefit to him and to everybody else that has that diagnosis. So be safe, be healthy. And yes, people, God bless each and every one of you, your families, your friends, your communities, your neighborhoods. Come into our community and you'll be blessed there, guaranteed. And yes, my friends, I'll see you next time. Take care.